you've got a diversity of roles, from the inside man to Amistad to even Kinky Boots, which is a testament to your acting abilities. I wanted to know what attracts you to a particular role.
Well, it always varies. You know, there are always a kind of number of different things. You know, of course, it's character, story. You know, it can be the director. You know, it's a combination of things. You know, and I always find that if I'm reading something and I feel myself inside it somehow, that I feel kind of moved and part of it, it's all kind of already happened. You know, there are certain things you read and you can never quite connect to, I suppose, and all the parts that I've played and all the stuff and people that I work with, you know, and I've been very fortunate in my working life, and that's been the sort of common denominator.
And if you could tell me a little bit more about Half a Yellow Sun that screens tonight, also in tandem with your short, Tantalite, which is your second directorial credit, is my understanding, your second short.
That's true, yeah.
If you don't mind telling me a little more about our projects tonight, what we'll be seeing tonight and tomorrow.
So, so Half a Yellow Sun is based on the book, the extraordinary book by Chimamanda Adichie, of the same title, which tells the story of these sort of interpersonal relationships happening in Nigeria, specifically in the southeast of Nigeria, around the time of independence, going up into and through the Biafran Civil War. So from 1960 to 1970, and it's Tandy Newton, and then the two sisters, Kainene and Olana, Nikanoni Rose and Tandy. So these two very powerful relationships sort of center the story, and the war rages around it. And Columbite Tantalite actually is a short that I made in conjunction with the Young Vic Theatre and the Guardian newspaper. I was researching to do a play called A Season in the Congo about Patrice Lumumba. And I travelled with Joe Wright, the director Joe Wright, and David Land, the artistic director of the Young Vic Theatre in London, to Congo. So we were in eastern Congo, just where the militia was taking over, and it was a very troubling time at that moment when we were there. There were something like 2 million internally displaced people. So we went to a lot of the camps there, and then. And when we travelled through the region, and I got back and I realised that I wanted to make something about it, and about my experience there, and so I decided to tell a story about Columbite Tantalite, which is the mineral that's found in mobile phones and so on, that is mined in Congo, and one of the reasons why Congo is actually one of the wealthiest countries in the world in terms of its mineral wealth. But of course, in terms of the population, it has what's called the curse of the mineral, so it has a lot of problems.
I have a quote from you where I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about 12 Years a Slave, of course, but you received the male acting trophy for the British Academy of Fine Arts, and it was a quote, it seemed it was directed to the director, Steve McQueen, and it goes, "This is yours. I'm going to keep it. That's the kind of guy I am, but it's yours."
This was the BAFTA, the British Academy of Film and Television. It's just a very honest moment, really, of accepting an award and being very grateful to accept it. But also, I just feel that Steve, from the moment that he called me up to talk to me about the project, was just an incredibly hands-on, passionate and engaging person and spirit to be around, and his desire to tell the story, and his desire to really to kind of pull the entire community of filmmakers who had gathered, to tell the story, through this experience in a really remarkable way, was just a very powerful time. I think it was a very powerful time for myself and Michael and Lupita. Who Michael, of course, had worked with him before, but I think this was a very special experience, even amongst two other very special experiences. So I just think that Steve was a completely remarkable filmmaker, an extraordinary person. So that's what that was.
Are you bitten by the directorial bug, since this is your second short that we'll be seeing tonight? And if so, what is it about being behind the lens and in creating the stories and orchestrating the stories?
Sure. I don't know if I'm bitten by the bug exactly, but I think it's just about compulsion somehow. If you're just compelled to tell a story, if you're excited about it and you want to tell it, then I will try to do that. And it's sort of as simple as that. This was a story that I just I felt should be out there, and it was a conversation that I kind of wanted to have, and to see it in kind of some sort of narrative form, and something that had kind of been absent from some of the conversations about Congo, even in the very explicit conversations that sometimes happen in the various newspapers here in the States and in Britain about the nature of the fighting and the nature of the internally displaced people and the militia, but not really a lot about the root causes of all of that. And so I wanted to talk about that and to write something about that. So I think that that's part of just being compelled to tell stories, I think.
Has film transcend books and literature as far as where people find truth or get those additional perspectives as far as what's going on in different areas of the world that we might not be privy to? Is film the new authority when it comes to gaining knowledge and insight into these different worlds? No, I think they work in tandem. A classic example, of course, is Half of a Yellow Sun, which is based on this book and a wonderful book, amazing book. And I think B. Bandele's adaptation of the book, brings to light certain qualities of the book, in a kind of in a narrative, in a more linear narrative form, and that's. I think to me that's very exciting. It's very exciting that literature and film can work together. I don't think one's an authority on the other, really. I think they do slightly different things, and they can create slightly different things. And creating kind of the visual poetry of cinema is I think a completely different is a different kind of language than the sort of imaginative creativity of novel writing. I wanted to ask if you could tell me about that first conversation with Steven Spielberg, where I've got the quote as listed. I remember getting cast in Amistad and getting this very strong feeling that I had overshot myself. It was a great shock. Can you go more into that feeling? Yeah. Was it a breakthrough feeling for you? Was there trepidation? I was 19 and I was kind of auditioning for practice. I had no expectation of actually getting the job and going to Los Angeles or to Hollywood to work with Spielberg. I went along because I thought, it'd be quite nice for when I finished drama school, to have done some auditions already, it was a huge shock to get the call to say that I was heading out there. I was completely stunned by it, actually. I felt like I had a career path that I had invented in my bedroom or whatever when I was a teenager, that was all about being in the theatre and then hopefully going to either the National Theatre or the Royal Shakespeare Company or something like that, and maybe in some distant future being in television or occasionally a film maybe. And so I had no expectation of anything else. So I felt immediately that I'd kind of overshot myself, and I no longer had a roadmap for what I was going to do, and so that was part of the kind of panic, the glorious panic of that time.